Hey, and welcome to the first episode of the Self-Trust Sessions. I have decided to add this to my Human Design Powered Business podcast as a way of sharing my weekly journeys, experiments in business and in human design, and in my quest to start trusting myself through my understanding of my human design, through the application of what I'm sharing with you in terms of uncovering your own path to your unique solution, what you're here to offer in the world, how you're here to share your value, and how you're here to make the impact that you're designed to make, and also the income. And there's going to be ups and downs in all of that. And I want to start sharing that because it felt like if I wanted to give you value in the weekly Human Design Powered Business show, that it felt like maybe I was going to be rambling too long. So if you're into just the practical solutions and how to apply the marketing strategies combined with human design insights and knowledge, then you can stick to the regular episodes and skip these ones. These are probably a bit more personal, a bit more reflective, and a bit more journalistic in ways, like my own kind of journal of what I'm seeing, what I'm observing, and what I want to share. So you get to choose. If you want both, great. But I'm going to kind of separate them out. Maybe not all the time I'll do that, but in the beginning, that just makes me feel like a lot more clear about what I want to say. And in my human design, timing and clarity is really, really important. Otherwise, I can get myself very confused and it's not going to land with you. Okay, so it's important when I'm sharing my insights with you that I feel really clear in that. So whether or not it's right or wrong, it feels right for me. So I'm glad that I have that opportunity. It's my podcast. I get to decide, right? Hopefully that works for you too. So I was thinking, how do I delineate it? Self-trust sessions sounds kind of, naming is kind of my thing. Like I just come up with these ideas and go, okay, not that that's revolutionary or anything like that. It's just that I thought, self-trust sessions, that makes sense. It's adventures in human design and business. And as I am re-energizing and reinvigorating my business and on a quest to really create a business that doesn't burn me out. And part of that is sharing that with you so that you have that too. I started my business back in 2010. When I jumped out of corporate. So I have been running this kind of business, like a coaching, consulting, digital marketing, online business for a long time now. And I've seen a lot of things along the way and I've learned a lot of things along the way. And now having the joy and gold that is human design and that knowledge that I've really been diving into and getting deeper and deeper into to combine with my business strategy and marketing knowledge is like chef's kiss. I couldn't be happier with these two coming together. I feel like it's been the missing link of what I've always kind of wanted to have. And it really, the more I understand human design, the more I can apply it. And sometimes it doesn't work. And sometimes I still get confused and stuck and all of that. And that's what I kind of want to be able to share with you in these self-trust sessions. Now, I want to say, I'm going to do one of these a week and then I'm going to do one of the others a week. And I'm a manifestor, which means that I'm not always switched on and I'm not always having a creative urge or drive to share. So consistency can be a little more difficult for me, so bear with me. But the more I do this, the more I want to do it and, really cultivating some of that discipline of consistency is really, really important. So I believe that, there are elements of our design, but there's also elements and truths about marketing and marketing strategy. And one of those is to be dependable and consistent, even when perhaps that's not in your nature. So how can you put some guardrails around that to be more consistent? Sure, there's calendaring and there's having accountability buddies, there's having a coach to keep you accountable, all of those things. But, depending on your design, you might be very driven not to be told what to do, like me, and just choose to carve your own path as well. And that's okay too. But honoring your design is what is important there. So For me, this is still, whether it's consistent or not, having a podcast is an amazing alignment with my human design of being a manifestor, being a 5/1, wanting to share practical solutions and teach and all of those things. Okay, so just from a type and profile perspective, and we know there is way more nuance than that, this really works well. So I know that whatever way it shakes out, it's going to serve me, serve my growth, serve the impact I want to make, and hopefully serve you too. That's really the big driver here, is to show up and share value. And I realized as well, I really enjoy listening to podcasts or videos, if you're watching this on YouTube, that are a little more off the cuff, a little more conversational, and a little more personal, okay? I don't always want hardcore strategies, although we love those, right? So I think if we can combine both, then, and that resonates with you, then great, you'll continue to listen in. If you just want to come for the strategies, then maybe the regular episodes might be more your jam and you can just skip across. Totally your choice. And I honor whatever is absolutely right for you. And I think it's a nice way for also me to look back on kind of my life through this phase. I know that I'm having a massive evolution. I'm sort of on the tail end of my Chiron returns, not that it ever goes away. That cycle will be like a background frequency for me now until the end of time, right? And the same as my Uranus opposition was, right? So these are the cycles of our life that call us into a new way of being. They don't change who we are from a human design level. They just change the frequency and some of the lessons that we're here to learn and the experience of ourselves and others. And so if you don't know about Chiron return, it is an absolutely fascinating cycle. Well, I find it fascinating now that I'm 51. A fascinating cycle that comes around once every 48 to 50-ish years. Okay, so maybe you've heard of Saturn return, where we kind of go from childhood to adulthood from around the age of 28 to 30. And if you think back to those years, and you can definitely in all the apps sort of look up when these returns are happening for you. It's quite easy. There's lots of online free tools to do that. And I remember finding out about my Saturn returns maybe in my late 30s or mid 30s, something like that. And it just made so much sense. It was such a breakthrough moment for me moving into the adulthood that I wanted. And then we go to then sort of another kind of 10-ish years later where Uranus is in opposition to where it was when we were born. So Saturn returns is when Saturn comes around and has a full cycle around the sun, and it goes back to the same place as where it was in outer space, in the solar system, whatever you like to call it, in the universe, when you were born. And it comes back around again, right? And Saturn is kind of the teacher of lessons. So it kind of wants to come and share those lessons with you. Uranus opposition. Uranus is kind of that bit more that unusualness, that spirituality, that kind of otherworldly parts. It can also be murky. It can also be some kind of addictive influences, and there's positive and negatives in everything, right? There's always that polarity. And Uranus is said to be where we go from the expression of our south node into our north node, we're called up into that higher purpose. And that can be shown within our human design and astrology. And really, it is an awakening moment to step in and be called into that higher purpose and kind of like take stock of what is going on and what needs to change. So each of these key shifts have definitely been stereotypical for me, but moving into Chiron, I'm seeing that play out a lot in my business, because I'm in business in helping people heal and empower, whether they're healing their business, their marketing, their self-worth, their confidence, their clarity, healing from a time of confusion, whatever that might be. And Chiron in, ancient Greek mythology was the wounded healer. So Chiron is like an asteroid that acts like has a force of it like a planet. So when that comes back around to where it was when you were born, it's coming to help you heal from those wounds. It's coming to share some of those lessons that maybe are areas of life that you need to look into a little bit more. And it's going to have this frequency and influence over you. And it actually has its own kind of human design chart as well. So you can have a look at what that looks like. That's just for that actual Chiron returns, but it definitely reverberates for post the Chiron returns because I am feeling it. So as a 5-1 in my Chiron, I go to being a 1-3 profile, which we've got the ones as a similar, but my one's very unconscious, liking to get to the bottom of things. But in terms of my Chiron, it's been very conscious. So I've wanted to get very foundational. My training and learning and studying of human design is very much been like this. The creation of the products that I've been creating have very much been foundational, detailed, getting to the bottom of it, not wanting to bring them out until they are perfect. All of those kind of things. And not that I'm saying they're perfect, but you know, there's definitely been that pull and shift from where I would just press go and go in my business. Like I'd be like, I had an idea as a manifestor, let's go, right? I didn't wait and stop to have everything in place to go there. And I really feel the desire to have that now more than ever. So in the last couple of weeks, I've released my profit code blueprint, which is a 40-page personalized custom blueprint that you can get to unlock your 6 cash flow keys from your human design. They're really an indicator of how you can thrive and show up in business with your personal brand, with how you attract clients, how you communicate and show up, and how you become visible in business, how you relate to others, call them in, how you hold them in your delivery, all those kind of things. And I took a really long time to create this and really make this, and I do think it's amazing. Look, it's only $27, which is crazy, but I think it's just an amazing foundation to give you that extra kind of insight into what kind of makes you tick in business. So what are some of those areas that you can leverage in your human design to make business flow more effortlessly, to make it feel more expansive and have a lot less resistance, okay? It can really kind of open up that path to a lot more clarity and hence allow a lot more cash flow. So I've pulled out those kind of 6 areas that do relate to your profitability in business, opening up more consistent cash flow and having the business that gives you that flow and gets you doing what you love again. Now, of course, there's a lot of elements that you need to go into with your human design, and I do that in a deeper way with the business success codes, okay? So we can have the cash flow keys, right? Those 6 elements, you can create that like awareness and understanding of that foundation. And then you can, when you're ready, you can go deeper to using the 6 success codes to go through to create what I call your solution. And that's your unique impact and the way you're going to create, share, and express your value to get paid for your purpose and reach your highest potential. Okay, so I have been created that, and that feels very much line 1, and also a lot of the third line experimentation. And these self-trust sessions, sharing my experiments with you, hopefully give you some insight into a bit of that third line as well, which I'm not really used to expressing because I usually, with my line 5, will have the solution, very practical. I go there, share it. And the line 1 is really kind of that foundation, but it's a bit more in my unconscious. So I do like to get to the bottom of it before I share it, but not as much as this 1-3 has been feeling. And also with a 1-3 profile being a personal profile rather than a transpersonal profile, which my 5-1 is, I've really felt the pull to withdraw a lot more and have a lot more independence in the work that I'm doing and having alone time and feeling really great about that, which this is really rare for me, but I have been absolutely loving it. So if you're near that sort of 50, age, or even if you're sort of 5 years either side, because even if you're on the other side and you hadn't looked into it, it's going to make a lot of sense about that, about what maybe happened during that time as well for you. And it's kind of like, great, I'm carried this new badge of my Chiron returns, and it doesn't change your human design, but it definitely influences it. And it is this frequency that you can harness and leverage and also an awareness and understanding is going to make the passage through the time where you are being called to see things so much better. And the last couple of weeks, I hadn't showed up on my podcast because actually I put my back out really badly and I got a flu. So both together combined, I think for the last 10 days, it was only like yesterday that I started to come good. I was like really wiped out and I was actually really scared when my back was out. The other morning, I could not get out of my own bed for about 2 hours until I could take like an anti-inflammatory and wait for it to kick in before I could roll out of bed. The pain was absolutely excruciating. And I'm not, immune to understanding that there's emotions at play there. And there's also other elements within my body that are at play there. One of my, most successful clients that I run her lead generation and have worked with her for several years, she has a technique that talks about, it's called the spinal flow technique. And it talks about how there are the 7 areas in your body and they kind of align to the chakra system and how chemical, emotional, and physical stress can show up in those and where they kind of come from. And we can also see this in the human design life chart. So for me, I had a chance to then reflect upon, okay, what is my lower back screaming out about? As I dove deeper, it coincided with absolutely getting out this new profit code blueprint product that felt like a real up-leveling for me, really coming out with something that I had been working on for some time. And I've been really reticent about putting offers out that were a result of this new version of myself. And so that was like definitely one part of it that felt like an up-leveling to me. But the second part of that is being a manifestor. Like in doing that, I wanted to do it myself so that I was across everything that I was putting in there. But it was a tremendous amount of work. It was like basically writing a whole book because there's 40 pages custom for each of the 64 keys for the calling key and then each of the 5 lines for the other 5 keys, right? And I wanted to write those myself based on what I had read, what I could see, and how I could apply it to what I knew of business as well, right? So it took an incredible amount of time and I did push myself more than probably the rest that I should have, even though here I am like, honor your human design. I'm a manifestor. I do not have that sacral energy. I do need to rest. But I had this incredible push of the creative energy and the creative burst and download of wanting to birth this. Like it made so much sense to me. I'm like, oh, this is just such a great portal into aligning with the business that you need. And I really want to get this together. It was not something that I could outsource at all. And so I think that it was the culmination, this back thing. Oh my gosh. Like I could tell it was part of my body, rebelling against being pushed past where I wanted to rest and the time I wanted to naturally kind of flow into it. And also I have an undefined root center. I also have an undefined sacral. I think that those centers were at play, but when I look at the root center, because it felt like that's really where this pain was down in my lower back. And look, the human design life chart doesn't exactly like flow to where everything is on the body, but what it does reflect is that it is a pressure center, right? The same as what I like to call the crown and what some people call the head center, okay? And they're both pressure centers. They're both designed to kind of like you will feel pressure, particularly when they're undefined and you don't have sort of fixed access to the wisdom that's within this center. And when they are undefined, you're actually here to share wisdom in those areas. But the root center is all about that drive to act and to go and to take action, okay? And so when mine is undefined, right, and decisions are unmade and emotions are unexpressed, or you're feeling stressed or anxious about anything. And in this instance, I was feeling stressed. I wanted to get this profit code blueprint created. And I was anxious because I wasn't sure if it was going to work. We kind of want to just say, well, we want to create for the art of creating. and for the act of creating and the experience of it, and we get to learn, but you also want things to work too. So the issue with a root center being undefined is that when there is anxiety and pressure there, that it can cause it to freeze up and get really stuck. It can also mean that you don't want to take action, and all of those things happen as well. So this can be a very large driving force of resistance. But in my instance, upon reflection, it was also actually manifesting as physical pain, blockage, really, really stuck there. And I had to take the time, yes, to rest, but also reflect on why I was feeling that and what things that I could do to lessen the impact of that stress and anxiety about my business. Because we have authority in our human design. And for me, my authority is my heart center, my will center, my ego. So when you look on your human design life chart, and if you have not got this yet, please go to my website at victoriagibson.com, print a free one out, and you can look at the life chart, body graph, whatever you like to call it, and you'll see on that where, when you're not looking at the big circle one, you'll see the body graph where there's 9 shapes within there. So mine is my heart, which is a triangle, sort of around the middle of the body. And so I get to decide what I want to do based on where my heart's pulling me, okay? But I also need to have that in equilibrium with valuing myself and not trying to compare myself with others, or not feeling like I don't have enough self-worth or that I'm not good enough. And if there's any of that sort of shadowy stuff going on, then I need to contemplate, work on transforming those shadows. And even with just loving awareness, we can't always just banish them for good, but having an awareness and an understanding and an ability to move through is enormously helpful, because what that does is gives us a chance to understand what is ours and what is not. And the shadow elements, yes, they are ours, but they're not what we want to continue with. Or maybe there's another influence that's happening that can be causing you to feel, more of the stress and the anxiety. And I was talking with one of my other clients the other day, a projector. And her and I often have we've worked together several times over the last few years. As a projector and a manifestor, we both do not have access to, generative energy with the sacral center, and our types are very different, but there's some similarities there, right? We're not the most common type, and the world's not really set up for us as much as it is for, a mani-gen or a generator energy type. And, she was reflecting upon being in a mastermind and having a manifesting generator coach. She didn't say it was about the manifesting generator coach. She was just sort of reflecting on being on the mastermind, going, it's been great for all this strategy, but I also know that I need to do things in my own timing. So I've been reflecting on that. And I was offering up some perspectives that I could see about knowing her and how her messaging over the years has worked and hasn't, and has been very much her. And I can really see when it's not her by her being in this other mastermind, and then we're showing up activating marketing strategy and in alignment with what I know her design to be, but also what I know is her from knowing her, and also understanding that some of these strategies I don't really feel like are hers. Now, some might still be beneficial, but this is where things can get a little confusing, because she has joined a mastermind, and I have done this myself. We get this almost this manifesting generator love. We have to remember our own human design. And if we are not a manifesting generator type, even if we're a generator type, we're not a manifesting generator type, okay? And the manifesting generator types can be so alluring because they can juggle so many balls in the air. It is crazy. I cannot do that. But it looks like a badge of honor, and it looks like something to aspire to. And there we go, trying to imitate that, because it seems like a worthy pursuit to do that. It seems like a great idea to run after what the manifesting generators are doing, because it's so impressive. They're so attractive. People like are drawn to that aura of who they are. And look, there's all the nuance in your human design, but some of them are just like so magnetic. It's like, wow, you did all that. Wow, amazing. And I find them irresistible. So I get it, but I have to be so clear about what I'm going to take on, particularly when I join a mastermind. Then, I'm a manifestor, so I do not like being told what to do. So if there is a strategy, yes, I can get a little bit of FOMO and want to try and do it. But it never really works out very well for me if it's not coming from my authority, if it's not aligned with my design. And not many marketing strategies are aligned with a manifestor's design. PS. So there I go, investing, trying to, do what they say, and it can work for a time, but it's really not sustainable. And I always sort of end up feeling disappointed. And that's not their fault. That is my issue. It's my domain to own and work through and understand, because I have to understand that I'm not designed for those strategies. As much as they work well for the majority of people, they're not going to work as well for me. And I joined another program recently, which I actually am loving, by the way. It is a woman called Julie Ciardi, and it is the lab, and I joined the Human Design Business Accelerator because I'm like, someone else talks human design and business, like, hello, I am there for it. I am ready, right? Like, bring it on. And she's amazing, like so magnetic. Manny Jen, right? So she's a 2-4. She talks about that a lot, being sort of that natural and having that networking and all of those sort of elements. And, she's got like 800 people in this thing. Like it's huge and good for her. It is great. She has got amazing stuff in there, and she's teaching business too, albeit it's kind of business at a very foundational, basic kind of level. So yes, it's good reminders, but, a lot of it, I've kind of been on that evolution for over a decade, so I feel like I've got some solid grounding there, but I'm loving how her perspective comes in with the human design elements and impacts personal branding too. It's actually weird with Julie in that I had a private client early in the year. Oh my God. Now that one was an absolute shit show. I normally do not work with men, and I'm not anti-men. I love men. And they quite honestly would be generally, not this one, much simpler clients. This one, oh my God, was such a shit show. Like Manny Jen, not living their design, and actually not actually very good at what they did. Like once I dug deeper, I was like, hey, can I watch some of your coaching calls and get a sense of this? I thought I jumped in because it was a referral for a start. So I always like to honor if somebody refers me because, I don't know, maybe that's not a great idea. Maybe I should have checked in with my authority a lot more. I definitely should have with this instance. I was not trusting myself when I said yes to this client at all. And I fired him twice where I did trust myself, but then I didn't trust myself and let him back in. Okay. Anyway. And at the end of the day, he just like ghosted me. And I'm like, yeah, I knew you were going to do that. I knew this would happen. Like, hello. Anyway, it was no big deal. He paid me and, I got paid well for it. And, I think I did a great job, but he was like a toddler having emotional outbursts all the time. And he'd hired this other woman. I do have a long-winded way of getting back to the Julie Ciardi thing. He'd hired this other woman to be his project manager who had actually worked for a very well-known author and coach, multi-million-dollar coach. And she was great. Her and I had meetings together and I really vibed with her and thought she was great. Anyway, she had connected with me afterwards and just said, hey, I want to stay in touch and all that. How can I help you? And this is what I'm looking for. And, I like that. I'm into that. I'm a connector. So wherever I can share, your value around, I absolutely will. I'm always thinking about how you can be creating opportunity or what I might know to share with you. And so when she reached out, which was really lovely, she said, oh, just to let you know, I used to work with this woman, Julie, and she's launching this thing with human design. You might be interested. And I hadn't seen any of the ads or come across her at all before. And here's what's funny and weird. It feels weird to me. But and then when I saw her stuff and started listening, I was at first like, no, I'm always triggered when someone kind of like says the things that I want to do. I'm like, but I want to do that instead of like, that's my automatic, what? And then I have to sit back and go, no, that's okay. Other people have, this isn't some like Einstein revolution here. Like people have found the same kind of amazingness that you found and want to share it too. Brilliant. And it was just like, there are so many touch points. I've never actually spoken to this woman. I'm in her program and love it and would highly recommend her if you want to get, some business foundations. But there's a lot. Get ready. It's so many, Jen, in that like there's heaps, but amazing resources. She's so generous in giving. She wants to create so much service, and the prices are like, it's so undercharging, like insane. And of course, then just as another tangent, like I was like, oh, maybe I should do it that way. That way is working. I'm like, no, you are not a Manny Jen. You are not a Manny Jen. And that was what I'd been talking with my projector client about. Let's remember, tattoo it on her head. You are not a Manny Jen. Remember, you are not a Manny Jen. I have to say this to myself a lot in this program. And even I'm exhausted just watching her do what she does. She does like a daily audio podcast every morning that sends it out to her clients. And that was also like a bit of inspiration where I was like, I want to be able to have a place where I can do that too. Not every day though, thank you. But yeah, like I'm like brilliant, like can't fault it, fantastic. And I've really enjoyed that. But what my point is that, that was so the beautiful woman that I worked with, the nightmare client recommended, and I was like, no, I'm not going to join. I don't need that. I know human design, blah, blah, blah. But I've really enjoyed being in that container. So that has been amazing. But I also have to know in that what's mine and what isn't. Even the other day, she was mentioning that you shouldn't run your own Facebook ads. Now, I absolutely think that you should run your own Facebook ads, because I think that, and that actually goes against what I do on a high level for many of my clients, my long-term clients, with running their lead generation and running their Facebook ads for their high 6 and 7-figure businesses. And I have done that I've run Facebook ads since 2011, since I used to get paid for, I've always just got paid for running ads. It never stopped since then, right? So I've always been running ads. It's just been something that there's always a demand for. I know how to do it. It comes kind of easily for me. It's not my like passion work, but I'm good at it. And, it creates great value. And I do get these excitement like elements of, applying what I know and being able to do it. And it just does come really naturally to me. And anyway, in Julie's program, and this is nothing against her because she has not obviously run her own ads. She loves it. She advocates for Facebook ads. And of course, everyone in there's like, well, tell us how to do it. And like, we want to learn more. And she's just like, just go and pay someone to do it. But there's a lot of people in that program that are really at the like base level. They're just starting out and there's so much to know. And I think what she's saying is absolutely worthy, where she's saying, there's other things to focus on in your business. You could outsource it. But it's a great way to really have ownership over your own lead generation and if you are investing in something, make it work on a more economical scale for you. Look, there's different ways of doing it. Like it can also be a massive distraction. That's fine. So I can see her point, but once again, I know what is mine and what is hers in what's being shared. I don't then necessarily have to go, well, I should outsource my Facebook ads. Because here's where when my mind goes there, what can happen. So in these self-trust sessions, I promise they probably won't all be this long, but I was running ads to my new profit code blueprint, right? So it's a $27 offer. I was like, well, look, if I can just break even with that, that's going to pay for my ad spend. And, I've run these campaigns. I've helped clients create their own low ticket offers. And there's a lot that goes into it. And in fact, I bought the tiny offer, whatever it was called, tiny offer something, the Ali Burke program back in 2020 or 2021, one of those years. She was just like killing it. And one of her podcasts, I found out several years ago, she was spending I think she'd say, I made $1 million on these tiny offers, but she spent $800,000 on ads or something. And I was like, okay. There's always this underlying story. When people are always talking about what money they make, ask them what they spend on ads, right? Because it's very rare that you're going to have a huge profitability. But if you have it as part of a layered strategy, it can be really good. So I wasn't going, oh my God, I'm going to have this $27 offer and it's going to make me all this money. What it was a way to give value and generate leads that could pay for themselves, basically. Now, in running Facebook ads, I know that there has been several algorithm updates over this past year. Last year there were some, but really since February, we've had several. So with the AI, what do you call it? Mushroom effect, or, touches high impact effect, everything, right? And there's some good and bad and different elements in that, another podcast episode. But, there's been a lot of shifts in ads, and I've seen it in my clients' accounts, and I've been like, one of them is that you can't use interest targeting anymore. And really, that was like always my calling card. As someone who ran Facebook ads, so it was like my little masterstroke. I always knew how to create the right targeting, and my creative and messaging, which hasn't gone away. Creative and messaging is still super, super important. And that's why if you're not a great copywriter, don't run your own ads, because that will not work out so well. But AI can kind of help you with that now. If you have the right kind of prompts and the right clarity about your positioning, your market, AI can do a really good job now with, with the right kind of prompts. And there's a vast difference about those, by the way. Same as there's a vast difference using AI for human design, right? Like there's a lot of errors in there if it's not fed the right information. I know that there'd been a lot of algorithm issues. And as soon as I kind of jumped in, I was like, great, okay. Like I have access to higher level meta reps with my high spend ad accounts that I work on with clients. So I'd been asking around what had been going on. I keep my finger in the pulse and see how these updates, it's called the Andromeda update, but really it's been probably about 6 updates this year. They can't all be the Andromeda update, but there's definitely been big elements, mainly away from targeting and allowing Facebook to find your people. And how can you set that up well so that it can be delivering you buyers of your smaller offers that can pay for your ads to get the leads in, and then obviously you work to, invite them to the next thing. So all of that stuff. So I had already had a lot of practical knowledge, not only from 15 years experience of running ads, but also in speaking with the ads reps and in running them for my clients. Now, so I could see, okay, this works, this doesn't, whatever. And they had said one of the golden rules was when you set it up, leave it for a week. Do not touch it, because it resets everything and it throws the machine learning off within Meta. And of course, I couldn't help myself. So I messed around with it, and I was like, it was running so well and really profitable. And then it fell off a cliff, and I was like, what? And then I was like, so instead of just doubling down doing what I wanted to do, which was to then go, okay, now I'm going to test and create a new one and, keep iterating and test, but in new campaigns, not keep fiddling with the other one. Came to that conclusion because I experimented, worked it out that was not a great idea to keep adding new ads in the same campaign, but start a new campaign. And there were wildly different variations there too, and I sort of got to the bottom of some of those elements. But then as I did that, obviously Meta heard me talking about these ads or saying things about them, or I don't know, but I started getting ads in my ad feed for how to learn low ticket ads. And I was like, oh, I'm tempted. And I kept looking at it going, I already know what to do. Why do I need to go and buy that? No. And then I was like hemming and hawing. I think if you have to hem and haw about anything, basically it is not the right decision, right? But getting back to this, we have our authority. Yes, I could have said that was my desire to just buy it and I wanted to see what was going on, and that in actuality was what it was. But there was also another element that was like a bit of conditioning, like, you don't know, and someone else is going to have the answer. And that drove me to probably then go, okay. And look, it wasn't an expensive program, and, she's quite engaging and entertaining, and she definitely knows what she's doing. But as I'm watching his videos, I'm like, yep, I know that. Yep, I did that. Yep, okay. And I'm watching all these videos going, yep, that's exactly what I've already been doing. One thing wasn't exactly what I'd been doing, but I'd already made a decision not to do that. So I knew about it, but I was like, no, I don't think that's the best way, because my testing did not prove that to be correct. Anyway, so like anything, we get value out of whatever we purchase. And this is definitely not saying, oh, that wasn't, a great thing. But what it was back to is like, what's mine and what isn't? Mine was knowing that I already know in my testing and experimentation and my knowledge that I'm going to get there, but didn't trust myself. So I bought it. And then I was like, didn't need to buy that, right? It's okay. It's still, there might be something in there. What it did show me was like, wow, you can kind of put things together without making all these extra resources and elements, and people are still going to be like, great. So there's always a learning. Okay. So that was definitely an element of self-trust this week. I hope that was beneficial. I'm kind of looking at the time now and realizing I'm having a big old ramble with you, but I just wanted to share some of those things and hope that that serves you. And if, at the end of the, putting a bow on this episode, it is about understanding those pressure centers. So maybe even if your root is defined, but your crown or your head center, the top inspiration center isn't, looking at how those centers can pressure you into not being yourself. Okay. Because especially when we're undefined in those centers, we're always going to be drawn to what's not ours. Like that's human nature as well. So understanding, like for me, the root, I had to understand that anxiety and stress and what that was going to bring up in that freezing and stuckness. So I had to move through that and try and find the wisdom in that undefined center instead. So I invite you to do that if that's coming up for you with an undefined center. I also invite you to trust yourself in your type and the programs and things that you're joining, in understanding what's yours and what isn't. Like, there's not to say don't ever hire a coach who's not your human design energy type. Just understand the differences and what can work for you and what can't, and have that ability to discern and align with the best of who you are and how that can work for you. So, I hope that has been helpful for sure. And I'll be back to share more. If you like this, please let me know as well. Just maybe Instagram me or DM me on Instagram at I am Victoria Gibson is my handle. I'd love to hear if this resonates, if you got anything out of it. Regardless, I'm still going to kind of do it. But who knows for how long, given I am a manifestor. I have these creative urges and then I'm like, no. But when I'm called to and I've got some structure around it, this is a great way for me to consistently share that. And I know also in my design, my insights and my ideas can hit a lot better when they're not scripted and structured as much. So I hope you found that beneficial. And if you've got any questions, always jump on over or leave them in the comments. And I would love to hear from you, and can't wait to see you soon.